Have you ever wanted something homemade, fresh, and impressive, but you don't have hours to spend in the kitchen? Today, I'll be teaching you how to make a flavorful pesto that tastes like it came straight from a restaurant. But first, we have to go upstairs. Now we're upstairs, and the first essential step is washing your hands. When you're washing your hands, you should sing the happy birthday song one time, and if you're a fast singer, sing it twice, just to make sure your hands are clean and ready to prep the ingredients. First, we'll start with the pesto. You'll need pine nuts, pepper, salt, garlic, Parmesan cheese, olive oil, and basil. First, we'll start with the Parmesan. For the pesto, you'll need to grate out 2 tablespoons of Parmesan. I will be using fresh Parmesan, but you can use whatever kind that you have. Now that you have measured out your 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, you will want to put that to the side, and we're going to measure out 2 tablespoons of pine nuts. Now we're going to want to put both these away, and we'll now chop up our garlic. Now you'll need your 3 garlic cloves. First you want to smash them, unpeel them, and then you're going to want to roughly chop them up. But it doesn't matter as much how your chops are because we're going to be putting them in the food presser anyway, where they'll be more roughly chopped. Now you're going to want to roughly chop up your garlic. Off camera, I have more finely chopped up the garlic. I have also measured out a ½ teaspoon of salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, and 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. You're going to want something with more of a spout or a lip because it's easier to drizzle into the food processor. But now for the fun part, let's make the pesto. You're going to want to add everything but your olive oil into a food processor or a blender, whatever you have. Once you do this, you're going to want to pulse everything together. Now that everything is in your food processor or blender, you're going to want to pulse it together while slowly drizzling in your olive oil. This is what your pesto should look like when it's done. Next, you want to put it in a bowl and set it aside. If you're not going to make it the same day, you can store it in the fridge until you're ready to make the noodles. Now it's time to make the pasta. You're going to want 2 cups of all-purpose flour on a clean surface, 3 eggs, a ½ teaspoon of salt, and a ½ tablespoon of olive oil. Now that you have everything, you're going to want to start with making a nest out of your flour. Once you do that, you're going to want to crack your eggs and add it into the middle of your flour. Once you do that, add your salt and your olive oil. And then you're going to want to slowly break up your eggs and add it into this mixture. Knead this dough for 8 to 10 minutes until everything is fully incorporated and mixed in together. Kneading this dough for 10 minutes, the dough got a little dry, so we added water to my hands. If you have an opposite problem and your dough is too wet, you can always add more flour. Once you've done this for 10 minutes, you want to add plastic wrap and leave it just in room temperature for 30 minutes. So now we're just going to let that sit. To set your timer for 30 minutes, if you want to use your microwave, you're going to want to look for the timer and then set 3000 and then start it. And then that is how we start our 30-minute timer for the dough. After your dough is done, you're going to want to have 2 baking sheets and you're going to want to sprinkle them with flour and just set them aside. With your dough, you're going to want to cut them into 4ths. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to roll them all out flat enough so they're thin enough to go through the pasta maker. Once you roll them all out, they should look a little something like this, and now they're ready to go over to the pasta maker. With the pasta maker, you're going to want it on the widest setting, and you're going to want to roll them through 3 times. And just make sure that it falls into your hand and that you stay centered inside of your pasta maker. Put these through 3 times to the desired thickness. If you don't have one of these, you can do it at home with just a rolling pin. And now we're going to turn them into our fettuccine noodles. We're going to use this for that too, but if you don't, you can just use a knife. So this is the last attachment on this maker. Yours might be different. And then you're just gonna want to make sure to catch the noodles as they come out so you don't ruin them on the floor. Once the noodles are cut, they should look something like this. Now we're ready to boil our water. You want to put your stove on high heat and just wait for it to bubble, and then we'll be ready to add in our noodles. While the water is boiling, we're going to want to heat up our pesto sauce. You're going to want to measure up a cup of heavy whipping cream and add it into a pot on low to medium heat. So once you add in your heavy whipping cream, you're going to want to add in just your pesto paste that you've made. Once you do that, you're just gonna want to start to mix it around and incorporate these two ingredients together. Now that your water is boiling, you're gonna want to add some salt, a lot of salt. It's gonna help flavor your pasta and just make it better. Now you're gonna want to add in your noodles. You're gonna have to keep your eyes on this because fresh pasta cooks very quick, about 1 to 2 minutes, so do not leave this alone. The noodles are done cooking. It took around 2.5 minutes, so now we're gonna strain it out, put it back in the same pot, and add our pesto sauce. So now it's strained. We'll add it back in, and we'll go over to our sauce. Add in the sauce, and now your pesto is done and ready to serve. So now that the pesto is done, it's ready to enjoy. We still have some leftover cheese from the Parmesan we grated earlier, so you can just add that on as a topping. Bon appetit.